Hello, good morning. Oh, another little interesting snippet from Stephen through the eyes of. You know, I've always known that, he said, with a certain amount of tongue in cheek. But he is right that if you're married here in the Philippines, there are protections within the law. But it's also right that sometimes these things can take a long time to grind to a point where they're spoken of. One of the reasons why Rafi Talfa, the senator or congressman here in the Philippines, has a radio channel or a TV channel, YouTube channel, where disgruntled parties can air their grievances in public and maybe try and find some kind of common ground or resolution. It's a great opportunity for those to also learn from those sometimes quite distressing points that are raised. But for those that say, oh, don't build, don't buy, don't do this, don't do that, yes, you have to be careful, buyer beware. But it's no different really than if you don't have enough money to buy a piece of land in London or Australia, you get what they call a strata title or a leasehold title. And a leasehold gives you, as you well know, a certain period of time, some 30 years, some 25, some 99 years. But whatever they are, they're either accepted by lending institutions for mortgages. And that's a good example of how the commercial market actually sees a leasehold property. They don't see it quite the way some rather overzealous foreigners who come here thinking that they need to protect their money. Yes, it's true you need to not waste your money, but also you have to be careful how you spend your money. Now, Stephen talks about an issue that many of you no doubt have watched him, or certainly will have watched him talk about, and that is buying a property with a Filipino, and it either goes pear-shaped or she takes the opportunity to maybe sell it under your feet, so to speak, thinking, oh well, dumb foreigner doesn't know the law. Well, sometimes we dumb foreigners do know the law, and we have a better ability to push the law too, because we have the finances and the time often to wait for it to happen. And the idea that somehow waiting because you're old isn't worth the effort is also a negative way of looking at a problem. Justice is justice, no matter where you are in the world. And even after you're dead, you can always leave somebody with your power of attorney. You can always assign your interests in something so that at least at the end of the day, you know that your heirs, will benefit from your good decisions. Now, when I was living in Negillion, I was living with somebody who had an intimate knowledge of many of those things, and it was always heartwarming to see her help others sort out their various legal problems. And one of those things was a thing called putting a notation. It's a bit like in the West where we put a caveat on a title. In other words, by putting that rather mischievous piece of paper, but nevertheless important. A caveat means that a note is made on the title. It means that no action can be taken without the other side. The person who's placed that caveat on the title can actually do anything legally without you first being notified or your legal representation. Now, putting a notation on the title is an acceptance by both parties that you have an interest in this property. As to whether that notation is sufficient to act in the situation where you are living together but not married, I can't give you that advice, but I would think that it's a good question to ask an attorney, because clearly, like in some states of America, living in a de facto relationship or a common law relationship is not accepted as the same as being married to somebody. And therefore, it's important that you understand the law. And I think that even building a home and having it in writing that you have contributed the major source of revenue to build that home. It's not a case of getting in a way of prenuptial. It's a case of just making sure that nothing untoward happens without your knowing of it's going to happen. You can say, of course, if two people are needed to sort an issue out, if one refuses to sign and the other one is happy to, then you have a brick wall. And of course, that means you do have to put it before a judge to determine it. And the same would apply anywhere in the world. You have to challenge anything. It's just like when you go to an attorney here or in Australia or America, they'll each give you their opinion as to what the outcome might well be. But they can only give you an opinion because ultimately it's a judge that makes that decision, and he or she is the one that is the ultimate arbitrator of a situation. So guys, be enthused by the fact that if you're married to your lady, and that because you're married, you then have common interest in the assets, then maybe double check with your attorney, of course, but be more reassured that you're not necessarily going to end up being taken to the cleaners. The best case scenario is that both parties have to agree that the property is sold, because obviously if one decides they don't want to or they want to pay you back, the likelihood that she or he would be able to pay you back, be it a foreigner paying her out or you accepting her to pay it out, or maybe one of her family members, that's probably on the realms of impossibility rather than possibility. But guys, do check that out. It's well worth looking at, and I thank Stephen for raising the issue, because any little pieces that affect our daily lives and our decision making here in the Philippines is good information. And after all, when we look at videos, supposedly down to earth, boots on the ground, we don't want rose-colored glasses ideas. We want concrete, helpful information. And I'm hopeful that you will go out and check out some of what I've said maybe, and certainly what Stephen has said and raised, because I believe it's good and prudent information. So that's my thought for the day, and I hope that you enjoyed watching and that you enjoy following up some of the ideas that both Stephen and I have mentioned. Bye now.